I was dreaming to come to America. We had 2 uncles who came here when they were young men. And right after World War I, they wrote and asked us if we wanted to come to America. But they couldn't send for the whole family. They just sent for 3 of us. My father and I and my younger brother. I was dreaming about it. I was writing to my uncles. I said, I wish one day I'll be in America. We were supposed to get on 2nd class, but we were in 3rd class because so many people were going to America, because they opened the doors for everybody right after the war. It was very, very crowded. It was absolutely terrible. And I was sick the whole time. I was very, very sick. I said to my father, take me on the deck and throw me in the ocean because I can't stand it. But finally, we got here and we came to Ellis Island and we couldn't get off the boat because there were so many people on Ellis Island. They didn't have enough room for us. We had to stay on the boat 6 days. They ran out of food. We only had bread and water. When we finally got on Ellis Island, my father sent a telegram to his brothers to come and get us. They never got the telegram, and nobody came, and we were worried sick. Then they told us, if nobody's going to come and get us off, they're sending us back to Europe. Can you imagine how we felt? My father was crying. He said, my God, what's happening? Why don't they come? They don't want us or what? Finally, my uncle decided that something is wrong, that he didn't hear from us. So he had a cousin in New York. So he called that cousin, and he came, and he took us off. Yes, I was always dreaming of America, and I was dreaming, and my dream came true. When I came here, I was in a different world. It was so peaceful. It was so wonderful here. It was quiet. You were not afraid. The doors were open. I'm free. I'm just like a bird. You can fly and land on any tree, and you're free.
The village I was born in was Afede. I was raised in Volos. From Volos, I come to the United States. Volos was a waterfront, fishing boats coming in and out. My father was a hard-working man, working day and night with the nets on the fishing boat. My father didn't tell me to go to America or not to go to America. He never said a word. He figured out that I'd make up my own mind. Although I was 16 years old, I make up my own mind. We went to Paredes, a port near Athens, and then we got the boat. We got up on the deck. Then my father, for the first time, expressed how he felt. We shake hands and he said, James, I never say to you go or not to go. I'm very proud you make up your own mind to go to America. I know you'll have a better life in America than we have here. And then he left, and he was crying. He was crying. Do you know how I felt when I left my home, my father and my mother? I was the first in my family to come to the United States. I was in third class, $75 for the ticket. There were 3 in the cabin. I was on the bottom bunk and a man named Gus and his father on top of me. The trip was 22 days on the ocean. We arrived in New York and saw the Statue of Liberty. Gus asked me, "What's that statue?" And we're looking at the statue. Then his father said, "That's Christopher Columbus." I put my 2 cents out. I say, "Listen, that don't look like Christopher Columbus. That's a lady there." They started examinations on Ellis Island. I was alongside Gus, and I noticed he had a chalk mark on his back. I couldn't reach my back, so I asked him, "Do I have chalk mark on the back?" He looked, he said, "No." I said, "You've got one." And I'm thinking, either he goes back to Greece or I go back to Greece. So what happened? The one with the chalk mark had to go back to Greece. He had to go back. I don't know why. I just pray, "Dear Lord," and thank God, I was admitted into the United States through Ellis Island without a chalk mark on my back.
My father spent most of his time going back and forth from Sicily to America because there wasn't enough work there for a carpenter. Practically all the Galletta family were master carpenters. He'd come back and forth every couple of years. That's why my brothers and sisters are spaced 2 years apart. My mother became pregnant every time he came over. It became too burdensome for my father to keep coming back every couple of years. You know, that boat trip was no joke. My uncle told him one day, he said, "You should take the whole family back with him." My mother and father came with the 2 oldest children first, and then about a year later, the other 5 children followed. I was the youngest. My uncle escorted the 5 of us to Palermo, and then we came to America from there. There were a lot of people, all class of people. Some just came with what they had on their back. They didn't even have baggage. When we hit the Strait of Gibraltar, there was this terrible storm that broke out. It lasted 3 days. The water was so rough that the waves almost capsized the ship. People were throwing up, and if you wanted to faint, there wasn't room for them to faint. You couldn't lie on the floor, there was no space. These old women were throwing their medals into the water and getting down on their knees and crying and praying to God to calm the waters. I remember New York Harbor. It was the most beautiful sight in the world because we didn't die in that storm. We were alive. We made it. We were in America, a free country. We would be reunited with our parents. My father came to meet us at Ellis Island. I can remember that almost vividly. We were in this big room, and they call your name out. And when they called Galletta, my father came running through the turnstile. He squatted on his knees with his arms outstretched, and the five of us ran into his arms, and we were kissing and hugging, and we were so happy to be together. And he said, "We're all together now. We will never be apart again."
I did not have a normal childhood because there was a war, a never-ending war. That's all I knew of. Scarcity of food, the scarcity of materials. We had to fight for a piece of bread. Hide it, or it was taken away from you. So when I left, I just came with the shirt on my back. The Romanians came into Hungary as an army of occupation. When they came in, they were anxious to get rid of the minorities. The Jews had no one to stand up for them. The Romanians made the Jews turn in all their precious stones, their silver coins, of which my father had a big amount. They not only took it away from him, but they beat him up mercilessly. The soldier that beat him didn't have the heart to hit him hard. And the officer hollered, "You hit him hard!" Before they took him away, he came over to us children. "Let me bless you." We didn't know if he was ever going to come back, because over there, when they took you away, you disappeared. So when he came over to bless us, my mother collapsed and died. We decided to leave. Of course, you couldn't come through Germany. It was closed off. So in order to reach the port of Antwerp in Belgium, you had to come through the underbelly of Europe. But this was a trip of 5 weeks. At that time, the railroads didn't have a pane of glass in their windows. That's how bad it was. Not a single pane in any of the cars. Unbelievable. I noticed, as we got closer to port, masses and masses of people from East Europe, from the Baltics. It was waves and waves of people. It was unbelievable what you saw. This was an old broken down boat. It was a trip of 11 days on the ocean, and we were packed in tight, like the army when they ship soldiers across. Nobody ate the first few days. Everybody was seasick. I stayed in bed a whole week. The last 2 days, I finally got up to taste food, and when I saw the lights, I felt fine. I know we're nearing land. At dawn, when we saw the Statue of Liberty, like welcoming you, it was such a beautiful feeling. People started to sing. Everybody was happy. I feel like I lived 2 lives. You plant something in the ground, and it has its roots. Then you transplant it where it stays permanently. That's what happened to me. I began life anew amongst people whose language I didn't understand. It was a different life. Everything was different. But I never despaired. I was optimistic. And this is the only country where you're not a stranger. Because we're all strangers. It's only a matter of time who got here first.
I lived in Belgium with my sister for 2.5 years. That's where I met my husband, Paul. We got engaged in 1936 and were married soon after. By 1940, the war was coming closer to Belgium, and I had a feeling that the Germans were going to have to come through Belgium to get to France. I kept on saying to Paul, we have to leave. From Belgium, we went to Lisbon, and we were there about 3 months. We couldn't get a boat. We couldn't get a plane. Everybody was trying, and everybody wanted to go. Finally, we got a berth on the Nyassa. Oh, it was a small boat. It must have been a cattle boat. They just put paint over it, and that was it. One meal I ate on that boat the first night, and after that it was very hard. We traveled 12 days. I couldn't eat. It was a nervous time. One day, they said there were mines, water mines. Another day, a German boat passed by. We were wondering whether we would ever get to America. I was thinking, survive the day. That's it. Nothing else mattered. To survive the day and survive the journey. That's it. I didn't cry over what I had lost. I didn't cry over what I haven't got, and I didn't care. To wash my face, to wash my hands, to keep the child going, and to be well. That's all. We got to New York. We were so elated. We were so happy. The elation came from the heart. You could see it on the faces. That's all you could see. The faces of the people. They were in awe. It's like we were safe. That's all there was. When we landed at Ellis Island, they said, what do you want? You want something to eat? I said, I want a good glass of milk. That's all I wanted. The milk tasted like cream. It was delicious. That's all I remember. Years later, we learned my mother and father were killed. All my cousins, the whole town. Until 1942, we still had mail from my mother and father. After 42, the Germans evacuated them and they became refugees. I have a cousin who saw them in Auschwitz. They were put in the ovens. My husband, Paul, his whole family was killed. His father, mother, 2 sisters, a brother who was married and had a wife and 2 daughters. They were all killed in Poland. He was the only survivor. If you hate, you lose yourself. There's nothing left in this world after hate. I can't hate. I was never taught to hate. Even after pogroms, after everything that happened to our town. My father tried to explain. I was 10 years old. I asked the question, why? There was no answer to it. There still isn't.
We were 8 kids. My father and mother was 10, my bachelor uncle was 11, and my grandmother lived with us. 12 people. All the boys slept 4 in a bed, toe to toe. The girls slept 3 in a bed. We were poor people, but not dirt poor. We were poor, but we ate. In 1921, my father died, and my Uncle Jack assumed command of the family. Well, he said, we can't go on. The economy's nothing. We're going to America. But we didn't all go at once. Finally, in 1925, I came with my sister. I was 19. I had no ties and looked forward to America as an adventure. My brother Lou had gone to America the year before and was writing, telling me all about the wonderful things he was doing as a cowboy and with Barnum and Bailey Circus. Oh, I knew so little about America. For me, America was cowboys and Indians and streets paved with gold. I only had the good news. You understand? I left in the port of Liverpool with my sister. I arrived in New York Harbor August 1st. I remember I heard the lookout say, "Land ahoy!" Oh, everybody came rushing up on the deck, looking to see land, the first signs of America. I remember rushing up. I couldn't see a goddamn thing. I mean, the horizon was the sea. Then, as we sailed closer, slowly I saw New York coming up, like out of the sea. And the first thing I saw was the Woolworth Building. Well, that was the highest building in the world at the time. So the first thing you saw coming up out of the water was the Woolworth Building. And as we proceeded, of course, the building came out of the water. Oh, everybody was cheering, America! Oh my God, everybody was kissing and crying and hugging. There were a couple thousand people. And as we came in, of course, Manhattan Island started coming up and the Statue of Liberty. We got off the ferry and went right into the main building. That day, there must have been 3, 4 ships, maybe 5,000, 6,000 people jammed. And remember, it was August. Whew, hot as a pistol. And I'm wearing my long johns and a heavy Irish tweed suit. Got my overcoat over my arm. Oh, it was beginning to fall back home, you see? And I'm carrying my suitcase. Oh, I'm dying with the heat. During the day, that hall became so hot, and all they had was a couple of rotating fans, which did nothing except blow up the dust. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. The immigration official slammed a tag on you with your name, address, country of origin, etc. Everybody was tagged. They didn't ask whether you spoke English or not. They took your papers and they tagged you. They checked your bag, then they pushed you and they point because they didn't know whether you spoke English or not. Understaffed, overcrowded, jammed. And the place was the noisiest, and the languages and the smell. Oh, foul. You know what I mean? My brother Henry comes in the door. Oh, I hadn't seen him in 4 years. We took the subway to a 3-room apartment in East Harlem. When we arrived, Henry said to me, "Get those long johns off and throw the goddamn things out. They stink like hell." And he loaned me a pair of BVDs. Oh boy, it was like getting out of jail. Next morning, my brother says, "I gotta go to work. Take a trolley car and go downtown. Take a look around." So I go to the corner, and the trolley car stopped, and I got on. And I sat down, and the conductor came over, and he says to me, "Oh, what you doing, young fella?" And I says, "Just taking a look around. Is it Irish yar?" "Aye," it says. "When'd you get here?" "Oh, yesterday. Just got off the boat." Oh, he sat down beside me, and he's giving me a free tour all the way down 3rd Avenue. He's pointing out the buildings. The Singer Building. Oh, I was fascinated. Hey, America is a great place. I'm only here one day, and this guy's giving me a royal reception. I got off at City Hall Park. I was feeling very adventurous. Well, here it's a beautiful day, and I'm wearing thin underwear, and I'm beginning to feel comfortable now. And I walk across the park, and I look up, and there's a street sign, and it says, Broadway! Well, that was one of the most exciting moments of my life. Broadway! I mean, I'm only in America one day, and I'm on Broadway! I mean, it may sound like nothing to you, but to me, I got so excited. It's a wonder I wasn't killed because the traffic was going in all directions, and I was looking to the left, to the right. I walked across the park and sat down on a bench, and nobody was bothering me. Nobody could identify me as a foreigner. And everybody's acting like I'm a full-blooded American. I felt like I had the world on a string. I mean, this was my day. Finally, I got back to East Harlem, and I'm telling my brother all about my day. Well, he thought it was dull and dumb and boring, but it wasn't to me. It was one of the most exciting days, and that was my first day in America.
Hunger was a guest in everybody's home. By our standards, they had nothing. The majority of people were hungry all the time. The only time there was a relief from that poverty was on the Sabbath. Then the men came home, whatever they were doing, whether they were studying or working and making a living, and they put on whatever better clothes they had to get ready for the Sabbath, and went to shul, synagogue, and came home. And that was the time there was a decent meal in the house. All week long it was hunger. My father left for America when I was 2 years old. I didn't see my father until I came here. We couldn't get passports to get out then. We were Jews. It was all illegal. We traveled all night, and before it got light, we stopped to hide out at somebody's house. We made it to the border, then took a train. We were going to Holland, to Rotterdam. They had to carry me screaming onto the ship. That's how afraid I was. We traveled for 18 days in steerage. I was so sick all the time. I don't know why, but I was one of the sickest. It was a horrible trip. As soon as we hit the harbor in New York, it was like rejuvenation. The water was blue, the sky, it was a beautiful day. Everyone was laughing and crying that they're here, they're in America. It was such jubilance that it just carried itself over, even to me. A number of friends were there. Then I saw this man coming forward, and he was beautiful. I didn't know he was my father. He was tall, slender, he had brown, wavy hair, and to me he looked, beautiful. He looked very familiar to me. Later on I realized why he looked familiar to me. He looked exactly like I did, and I fell in love with him right away, and he with me. And of course, the first thing I had seen was that lady, the Statue of Liberty. was a thing I can never forget to this very day, because when I think of her, when I think of the Statue of Liberty, I feel so wonderful and so good. I don't think there's anything under the sun that can make me feel better. It seemed she was a vision from heaven, and it's been with me ever since. All the wonderful words that were written on it by Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land.
Here, at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning.
And her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome.
Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that Twin Cities frame.
Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free.
The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me.
I
lift my lamp beside the golden door.